Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. I think what we are seeing in Zimbabwe is a manifestation of that very sentiment. As much as Mnangagwa would want the nation to believe that he is popular, the truth is he's not. Here is an individual who got into State House on the back of a military coup, because he prefers to call it a military assisted transition. And he promised that he was going to hold free, fair, and credible election, and he was going to stamp out corruption. He had the chance to hold free, fair, and credible elections 8 months later. And he failed to deliver. He had another chance to hold free, fair, and credible elections last year. And once again, he failed to deliver. It must be said, he was able to get away with it in 2018 and last year because of the connivance of the corrupt, incompetent, and utterly useless opposition. We cannot deny that the opposition has connived in helping the Zanu PF stay in power these last 24 years. Some people would like to believe that the problem is Zanu PF and the opposition are trying their best to bring about change. I think that is where we're missing the trick. If MDC had implemented the democratic reforms when they had the golden opportunity to do so in 2008 to 2018, we would not be in this mess. And to keep on pretending that somehow MDC are not conniving in keeping Zanu PF in power is exactly what is helping to keep Zanu PF in power, because they're not addressing the problem. Mnangagwa in this cartoon is being depicted as, if people say I should go for a third term, we know he has been clamoring for a third term. Who am I to refuse? The third term he's hoping for is 2028. I think that is becoming more increasingly difficult to attain. As Zanu PF, I think there's no problem that he has got his vote rigging juggernaut well oiled. He can rig the 2028 elections. But what he cannot guarantee is whether he'll get away with it. And there are two aspects to be considered here. The first one is that whilst in 2018 and 2023, the opposition was able to mobilize their supporters. Chamisa was able to mobilize his supporters to participate in those elections in their millions. Last year, Chamisa got nearly 2 million votes. And yet, those elections were flawed. Everyone could see those elections are flawed. And yet he still managed to mobilize his supporters to participate in their millions. And they did participate. I would like to play a short clip of how some people are refusing to see the political reality of the opposition as part of the problem now. The Zimbabwe dictatorship problem. Here is an interview where Chamisa was cornered by BBC, and he wanted to stubbornly deny that he had rigged the elections.
Ende patakasangana na Trump akatibvunza navakomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
Serious questions were raised about your behaviour in Washington, D.C. You did see some senior people on Capitol Hill, some Congress people, but you also claimed that you'd seen Donald Trump. You claimed you had a conversation with him in which you said he asked you how much you needed to move the country forward. You told him $15 billion, and he said to you that he would provide the money if you won the election. That was not true, was it?
Sangana na Trump akatibvunza navakomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
It was not true that you'd seen Donald Trump and that Donald Trump indicated to you that he would provide, if you won the election, $15 billion.
All those statements were said by other people, not what I said.
Akasangana na Trump akatibvunza navakomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
Well, no, because there is a video which shows you at a rally in January back home in Zimbabwe saying that Donald Trump had pretty much promised you $15 billion. To be clear, because some people in Zimbabwe are still confused, you're now telling me you did not meet Donald Trump.
We did not.
That is Chamisa. I think the other blatant lie, as far as I'm concerned, was when he told his followers that he had plugged all the vote-rigging loopholes. And they believed him, and they participated in those elections, believing that he had plugged the vote-rigging loopholes. Of course, he was lying. He had not plugged any vote-rigging loopholes. And they participated in their millions, giving the process legitimacy. And even after SADC election observers condemned those elections as flawed and illegal, Chamisa and company went on to take up their gravity seats, and thus giving the process legitimacy. Here is what one of the prominent Zimbabwean politicians said about the opposition.
Person. And I'm like a social worker. You know, politics is not a business. This is what I want to remind most of our MPs and other people.
Do you think they look at it as a business?
Yes, they look at it as a business. Because they look at it as a business, seriously. Because the moment they go, business and employment creation, because if they go to parliament, you are employed. You get a car, you get a stable salary, and you are paid until your term is over. Already you are employed. If you are out, you're out of employment.
If you serve 2 terms, you get a pension?
You get a pension. Then already, this is why people kill in politics. They kill to be in parliament. This is why we have violence in this country, because there is no employment. The only employment which is there is in politics. There is no other outside employment. So for them, a very good example is, look at what happened to CCC, the Triple C party. Have a look. When they lost, when they said they were rigged, what I expected from them, I expected all parliamentarians to say, we are not going to go to participate in a rigged system, and we are not going to sit in a rigged parliament, because the elections have been rigged. So all of us were not going to parliament. Imagine what could have happened. We could have gone into new elections. There's no way Zanu PF was going to roll alone.
You think so?
Yes.
Do they care?
Caring or not caring, the public would have forced them, because the majority of the people would want representation in parliament.
There we have it. There cannot be any denying anymore that the opposition in Zimbabwe has been giving legitimacy to Zanu PF. What I'm arguing here is that the opposition is losing credibility. And even if they participate in the 2023 elections with no reforms implemented, there can be no doubt that they may not get as many of their followers to participate, because many people are beginning to see that the opposition has really no credibility at all. And between now and 2028, I think the opposition is losing credibility by the day. Zanu PF, yes, Zanu PF will be able to go into the elections. Mnangagwa, although here he is trying to give us the impression that he cannot refuse to take up the third term because the people want him. The truth of the matter is, even if he wasn't going to contest, Zanu PF itself winning 2028 by rigging, that is something that is going to happen. There's no doubt about it. There's no denying it. But it's only because they hold, particularly the rural people, to ransom. There's no doubt that in Zimbabwe, the rural people particularly have no choice in these elections. They are coerced to participate in these flawed elections. And Zanu PF will have no problem coercing them, as they've done in the past. So Zanu PF on its own, they can win 2028. And like I say, the opposition will participate, but they cannot guarantee that the opposition will be participating the same numbers. And as for the rural people's participation, I will again play a short clip. It was on the same video, actually, where Margaret Dongo explains why the rural people are no more than medieval serfs.
They have wrong priorities, especially the current government. How can you go and build an airport which services a few people, and the majority are the elite? and the so-called investors. Look at the rural. I made you come to interview me because I wanted you to have the experience of the roads that we are using. If we go today to our hospital there, you feel pity with that's a hospital in a rural area. If we go to our clinic, you feel pity. We have no piped water here. Do you know the reason why the rural people vote for Zanu PF? One, they're intimidated. Two, the policy is that the rural people should remain poor and subservient to the government. They should remain poor because if they remain poor, they continue singing the song for their master. This is why these people have been impoverished. It's for a reason. Because at the moment, if you economic empower these people, they'll go out of hand. Zanu PF will never have control over them.
Well, that is very true. So Zanu PF is holding the rural people to ransom. And I don't think there's anything we can change between now and 2028. If we could change, the biggest, most significant change would be that the rural people should be given title deeds to the land on which their homestead is built. That would be the biggest and most monumental political change to empower the rural people. But Zanu PF is not going to do that. Mnangagwa is not going to do that. But still, I would like to say that Zanu PF should not consider it a home run. Because as much as they can coerce the rural people to go and participate in 2028, getting political legitimacy this time is not going to be easy. I've already said that the opposition is losing credibility. Yes, there will still be a big contingent of the Chamisa Chete Chete mob who will participate even after being told yet another blatant lie by Chamisa that he has plugged all the vote-wrecking loopholes. They will still participate. But I think there is a growing number of those, particularly in the urban centers and in the diaspora, who are opening their eyes and their minds. And they can see that the opposition has failed the nation. And they will not be participating in 2028 with the same enthusiasm. And I believe that the very fact that SADC condemned last year's elections as flawed and illegal underlines what could happen in 2028. If SADC election observers were to say the same thing, this time the pressure would be on SADC to act decisively and deny Zanu PF political legitimacy. So, whilst our friend Mnangagwa is already punch drunk on the idea that he can save a third term, I would say that the writing is on the wall, that may not be possible. By the way, Zanu PF itself is also under pressure. Because as much as the regime would like to give the impression that it is performing, the truth is it is not. This vision 2030 is becoming increasingly apparent that it is a mirage. There is so much you can do with propaganda, telling people that the economy is growing, improving infrastructure and so forth. And yet, people can see for themselves that the roads are in a sorry state. The other day, Mnangagwa attended a commissioning of a dam in Churumanzu. This is a dam probably with a mud, with clay wall. Nothing to it at all. And yet here he is making it as if to say it's a big thing, it's a big deal. I'll just play a clip of him posting about it.
Zvino minista wangu hakuna uiskana. Damu rangu. Kaderikani zunyara zekubaudza. Ndokubvanana na murungu waipano. Coltart, yakuno. Ewe kuno kode Chamisa. So, I'm some daughter. You can't listen to me. I'm Lisa. Not to wear an apple daughter. One way teaching. I keep my you don't come. The price come. The guy in that fashion man's kune dhamu ranonzwa kuti rakatsemuka ndanotarira kana wauya uriudze kuti rogadzirika here mufana uyu akauya kuno akatarira akadzoka purazi pangu zvanzi ndari kati yes anzi ndokwanisa kuti ndirigadzira ndikati ndanogadzira ndokubhadhara ndii akagadzira ikodama Mungezi yamuni, mumunye wetu. Sala pansi ndo. Kuruma ndo.
Our drunk president, what was boasting about there is that he had a dam repaired. And he paid the guy who repaired it from his own pocket. How interesting. These are public works, and the president is paying from his own pocket. Where does he get that money? This has become a familiar thing in Zimbabwe. The other day, he was distributing goats, and they were all being distributed in the name of Mnangagwa. Everything is now for ED. You don't have to guess where he is getting the money. He's getting the money from all the looting that is taking place. This is money stolen with one hand and given with another. And invariably, it takes more than it gives. I would like to denounce here and now this idea that we should depend on the benevolence of a dictator. We should never depend on the benevolence of a dictator. Just as much as we should never depend on the benevolence of the butcher or brewer or baker for our bread, as Adam Smith argued. here we are being asked to depend on the benevolence, on the charity of a dictator. We are in trouble here. But I think by 2028, many people will see that this so-called Vision 2030 is a mirage. The fog is lifting. People can see for themselves that the economy is not improving. The infrastructure is not being repaired. The hospitals we inherited at independence are in a deplorable state. Schools, same thing. Many teachers have left because of poor salaries. Zimbabwe's economy is in serious trouble. And as with each passing day, the fog is lifting. People can see for themselves that Vision 2030 is a mirage. So as much as Mnangagwa would want to have a third term, I think the tide has turned. Zanu PF winning 2028 rigging 2028 is one thing, getting away with it is another. That is the message I would like to leave. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon.